Okay, so the other night was an extra innings game, and I had some other stuff to do, so I was like, you know what, I'll just record the Dave on Jays in the morning. And it was only later on that I realized, the last game before the All-Star break starts at noon, so we're not doing that either. So what this means is this video is a twofer, so think of the value and let's get into it. First, last night, Blue Jays win 6-5 in extra innings against the Kansas City Royals. I mean, listen, you want to be negative about this because, the Royals are super bad already, and then they're missing 10 actual MLB players and putting in some kids. I don't know how many first major league hits were in this series, but it felt like every other inning there was a first major league hit for somebody. And good for them. That's fantastic getting the experience. But we're not exactly facing the 27 Yankees here is what I'm saying. Or even the 2022 Yankees for that matter. But you gotta give it to Kansas City, man. This is a young team of kids just up there trying to open some eyes at the big league level, trying to take in their first big league experience. They played scrappy. They played feisty. They played all the cliches. They actually had a really strong series, and they gave the Blue Jays a hard time of it in all facets of the game. They made some mistakes, of course, and some of those mistakes ended up being the difference in some of these games, but I gotta say, they played with a lot of heart and so many cliches. I think it's like 5 that I've said. Anyway, they played a good series. I love a young team that plays up. I think that's one of the beautiful things about sports, is that you actually have to play the games. You can't just look at the two teams on paper and say, well, this team's better, so it's gonna win. You actually have to play the games, and the Royals, they gave the Blue Jays a hard time, so good on them. So this was the Kikuchi spot. This is kind of like a bullpen day by any other name. Max Castillo starts, and they're trying to get as many innings out of him as they possibly can, but at the end of the day, the bullpen's going to have to take one on the chin in this one. We knew that going in. Castillo wasn't as sharp as we've seen him previously. He didn't have the length that he had previously. You can't really count on it. I think we had maybe prematurely said, well, this is a guy, maybe this guy, he started in the minor leagues, maybe he can be... No, he's slightly better than most quad A tweeners, but he still looks and sounds and walks and talks an awful lot like a quad A tweener. And that's not a bad thing. That can be very useful. And in a world where we might need another long man, he might be a guy, or when someone gets injured, you need someone to do a spot start, he could be a guy. He might end up being kind of like a Trent Thornton that throws more but worse strikes, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm not entirely sold on him. I love his effort. I love his hustle. I think he can be useful in a pinch, but I wouldn't count on him, is what I'm saying. Anyway, Castillo was lowercase f fine, getting touched up for 3 runs over 3 and a bit innings. Again, for a spot start, for a bullpen day, that's okay. Against Kansas City, maybe that's not the best, but it's fine. You can't really complain about any of this. Kikuchi being super, unusably bad has really put this team in a spot, and we're right now just trying to tread some water with this spot until eventually we find a more permanent solution. And thereafter, for most of the game, the bullpen did a credible job locking it down. Even Trevor Richards. I don't know how many times we're going to keep running this guy out there, but this is one of the sharpest outings he's had this whole season, really. That curveball was really working for him. It's going to be a hard, long road to try to pitch his way back into Blue Jays fans' good graces. He has been largely awful this year. Slowly but surely, the ERA is starting to come down. Slowly but surely, the strikeouts are starting to go up, but he's got a tough road to hoe, for sure. But the scoring was kind of a back and forth affair. They scored a run, Blue Jays scored a run. They scored 2 runs, Blue Jays come right back with 2 of their own on a 2-run single by George Springer. That's some clutch stuff, George. He's been kind of quietly not really okay for the last little while. He's been okay, but not really doing the George Springer things that we were used to seeing at the end of last summer, so maybe he's just saving that up. I like to live in that world where he's just saving it up. So that means it's a tie game going into extra innings. The Blue Jays, because it's a bullpen day, need to turn to somebody who can definitely get the job done. So you gotta bring in Jordan Romano to lock the door. Oh no. A 2-run home run to a guy who had his first major league hit the day before from your closer to give the opposing team a 2-run lead in extra innings is double plus ungood. The fact that Jordan had been named an all-star on this very day, and then he coughs up a 2-run home run to a baby, an actual physical, literal human baby. That's something. That's baseball, Susan. I guess that's what that is. So I was totally like, we're losing this game, right? I mean, you go down 2 runs, and 1 run is one thing, but you're going down 2 runs against a team that's been scrappily fighting you this whole time, and with an offense that hasn't exactly wowed you all season. It's hard to really look at this and say like, the Blue Jays are definitely going to come back from this one. But then, majestically riding over the hill like Gandalf at Helm's Deep is the hero the Blue Jays really needed. Joel Payamps. Yeah, maybe not a name to hearken with. Blue Jays fans might remember Joel Payamps from when he was allowed to walk after 30-ish innings of mediocre baseball in 2021. He got us through some dark pandemic-y kind of times, but at the end of the day, he's not very good. So he was allowed to go to Kansas City, where he's been sort of not very good for them for a bit now. He was the guy they turned to lock down the 10th inning because Kansas City used all their credible relievers earlier in the game. So this might get ugly for Kansas City. And like, honestly, as in the doldrums as I was when the Pasquiano or whatever kid hit his home run, I was kind of like, we're definitely going to lose this game. And then I saw they brought in Payamps for the bottom of the 10th. So I said, oh no, we're in this thing. We're right in this thing. And I love the fact that, like, you have to let him face 3 batters. I understand that. But they didn't have to let him face 4. The fact that he comes in there, he immediately gives up like a ripped rocket of a double to Vladdy. And fair enough, Vladdy hits a lot of those, so you can't really complain about that too much. And then gives up a pretty hard hit on the ground single to Tapia to tie the game. And then gives up another hit to Bo. You didn't have to leave him in there to face Teo. The fact that you did is kind of like a kind of move from Mike Matheny. He's just kind of like, I want to get back to the hotel. I'm done with this. And the thing is, Teo didn't even really do a really Teoscar Hernandez thing. He hit a sharply hit ground ball right into the ground, and it kind of bounced a little bit. It just went through the left side hole to win the game. So it wasn't exactly like he hit a home run or anything or absolutely crushed the ball. It was a ground ball. If it had been like a few degrees to the right, that kind of changes the outcome of the whole inning and maybe the game. But yeah, I mean, it's when you leave your guy out there hung out to dry like that, things like this tend to happen. It happened, and I'm not sorry about it, but yeah, this is not necessarily one the Blue Jays earned, but we'll take it. We'll count it. We're not too proud. We need these wins. Thanks very much. We'll see you tomorrow afternoon. Which brings us to this afternoon's game, a noon o'clock start. I don't even remember the last time that kind of thing ever happened, but whatever. It is the ultimate getaway day. Getaway for like most of a week for the All-Star game. And the Blue Jays have 6 All-Stars, 5 of whom need to get to LA, so I guess they wanted to move this along. And move it along they did. This was a very brisk game that the Blue Jays were able to win 4-2 in the final game of the unofficial first half against the Kansas City Royals at Skydome, taking 3 out of 4 against Kansas City. I wanted to sweep, but 3 out of 4 that's all right. Jose Barrios on the mound for this one, and he gave up 2 runs early. First one on a bunch of soft contact balls that just kind of floated in there, and that's kind of unlucky, and that's kind of Jose Barrios' MO, where it just seems like he's pitching really well. Things are really crisp. He wasn't that crisp in the first, but, things were going pretty well, and other pitchers might have expected some outs there, but not Jose Barrios. If a guy puts a bat on a ball against Jose Barrios, it's usually a hit. Like, it feels unfair. And then he gave up this massive home run. You're kind of like, oh no, is it going to be one of these? It's already 2-0 in the second. Jose, come on, you got to hold the line. And then he did. And he just quietly, efficiently mowed down the Royals the rest of the way. He gave up hits. He always gives up hits. But they were like a single here, a single there, maybe a leadoff double there, but then nothing came across. Nothing was even really threatening to come across. He was very much just kind of like a heavy blanket that just kept the Royals under wraps. It was nice. And the Blue Jays got those 2 runs back in relatively short order. I mentioned that some mistakes by Kansas City ended up being a little bit really costly in this series, and this was another one of those with a ball that should have just been a ground out by Kirk to Bobby Witt. Bobby Witt absolutely goofs it. He's going to be a star in this league. He looks great. He had a really great series, and every highlight package or anything I've ever seen of him, he's doing really great elite level things. But this is one he just kind of botched. And having watched Bo Bichette mature as a fielder over these last couple years, KC fans, I feel you. I get it. He'll get better. He'll get enormously better. He'll be an all-star himself in short order. But right now, oof. That pretty much leads directly to the Blue Jays' 2 runs to tie the game. And then everything just kind of kept on. What is it with Blue Jays and junk ball or left-handers that they just can't hit them? It just seems like this Irwin guy out in Oakland. You got this guy that we saw today. They all went to the Ryan Yarbrough School of Junk Balling, and the Blue Jays just can't handle it. I would rather the Blue Jays face off against Garrett Cole or Verlander or Zach Wheeler or whoever. I would rather them face the ace of the other team 10 times out of 10 before I'd like to see them face these left-handed junk ballers that just every team seems to have 5 of them, and the Blue Jays can't hit any of them. And it's a really big problem. It's a classic, it's like a paraphrasing of Sun Tzu, which is how to win a direct conflict with one-on-one opponent. You don't do what you want to do what your opponent would least like you to do. So if the Blue Jays, go up against the Yankees or the Astros in the playoffs, and if the Yankees or the Astros do what they want to do, which is Garrett Cole, Justin Verlander, in your face, here are these big time, big money, multiple rings, kind of these are the biggest money pitchers on the planet. We're throwing these guys at you because that's what we want to do. I think the Blue Jays are that sounds great. But if you do what the Blue Jays don't want you to do, you just gotta find some lefty junk baller that you found at the bus station behind the 7-Eleven over there, and just have him toss a light 85. Just lobbing him in there all day. Watch the Blue Jays swing over top of it for 6 innings, and then watch them cry all the way out of the playoffs. I'm so terrified of that. This team, for whatever reason, just cannot square up junk balling lefties. It makes no goddamn sense. Anyway, that happened again today. Another junk ball and lefty just lightly tossing it in there at 85. Watching Teo flail away at nothing. Watching Vlad chop it directly into the ground. Watching the whole lineup. Someone might get a scrub hit here or there, but they just couldn't square it up at all. The Blue Jays wouldn't have scored any runs off this guy if Bobby Witt Jr. hadn't goofed it so badly that one time. Oh, it makes me so mad. Anyway, we get to the bottom of the 8th. Game is still tied. They finally lift this junk ball and lefty for a guy who actually throws fastballs. Thank you very much. Oh, Mike Matheny, absolutely saving us in this series right now with that decision. This guy probably could have thrown another 20 innings because he's just lobbing it in there at 85. But they pulled him, and now we have a guy who throws a fastball, and with a runner on, he threw a fastball to Alejandro Kirk, and Alejandro Kirk put it in the Blue Jays bullpen in left field. It's 4-2. Jordan Romano comes out, reminds us why he's an all-star with his lockdown 20th save of the season. That's a nice round number to take to LA. And Blue Jays win, take 3 out of 4, and are 7 games above 500 going into the All-Star break. And I wanted to point this out too. If you go back to the beginning of the last homestand, starting with that Boston series, where they took 2 out of 3 against Boston, and then the first 2 games of a 5-game set against Tampa Bay. The Blue Jays then proceeded to prolapse for the next week and a half, losing 9 out of 10 games in one of the most brutal stretches of Blue Jays baseball that I can remember. Just not only losing, but losing badly. Losing badly against teams they needed to beat. Bad teams that were gimmies and teams that are right there with them in direct competition for their playoff spot. Losing all of that. Getting their manager fired. Lots of talk of consternation between players and about the direction of the team. And Kikuchi is so terrible and he's put us in such a bad spot. And what are we going to do? Angst and Sturm and Drong and all the rest of it. And then they come home and win 5 out of 6. That whole stretch equals 500. 500 ball during that time. A nice stretch to open it, a nice stretch to close it, a shit sandwich. That's what that was, just a whole bunch of shit sandwiched in between some nice stuff, and it's 500. That was 3 weeks of my life. That took probably 3 years off of my life, and they were 500. It didn't feel like it. It felt like the world was collapsing. It felt like the season was lost. But they played 500. And now it's the All-Star break. And they're 7 games above 500. Okay. So, the team as a whole needs to hit better and more consistently over the course of the back half. We have seen evidence that that's coming, but it has come in fits and starts, and we've had plenty of false starts. So, We want to see more consistency there, please. Yes, please. That'd be great. Jose Barrios looking to be coming around. This is something like 4 or 5 starts in a row where he's looked like the guy we thought we were getting. The first 16 starts of the season were looking a little dodgy, but he's looking a lot better now. I don't want to say it's because of the mouth guard, but I'm not saying it's not because of the mouth guard. Gosman looked to be healthy in his return, so that's nice, and now he has a nice extended break to get whatever leftover healing he does do for his ankle, so the Blue Jays look like they might have dodged a big bullet on that one. Manoah continues to be Manoah, so that's nice. And Ross Stripling, I mean, I was skeptical that he could be the guy, but he has really stepped in and now is starting to consistently provide 6 innings, the occasional 7 innings, usually 5, but kind of like when you ask this guy to step in and provide 6 innings of 3 ERA ball, you take that every single time. He has done that. It looks like it's sustainable, which means the Blue Jays really only have one rotation spot that they need to address. And again, it doesn't need to be a home run, because if you get to the playoffs, I'll touch wood later. Hang on. If you get to the playoffs, you only have a 3-man rotation anyway. And let's be serious, unless they go out and get Castillo or Montas, and he's hot going into the playoffs, we know who those 3 are going to be. It's going to be Manoah, Gosman, Barrios, probably in that order. So, lots of bullpen help. We just need depth. We need bodies. We need guys who can strike guys out. We need maybe another starter to fill in that gap and take some of the pressure off some of the other relievers so we don't have to do a bullpen day every 5th day. Maybe a left-handed outfield bat. But we'll talk about all this stuff in successive videos. Right now, I'm going to say that's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you very much for watching this channel. Stay tuned during the All-Star break. We'll have a couple more pieces of content for you. One, I'm going to talk about what the Blue Jays need and should look out for going forward. I kind of did a light synopsis just then, but we'll get deeper into it. And the other one I want to do is Wither Juan Soto. Yeah, apparently he's on the market, ? Now, Washington says they're going to make one more final last best effort to kind of try to retain him and sign him long term. And I still would bet that the best odds are on him staying in Washington, that they would just back up the largest Brinks truck ever in the history of baseball up to this kid and be like, please be a Washington National forever. You already have a ring with us. You're already an all-time National. Just be here for your entire career. And if that happens, that's great. But also, he's a Scott Boras client. And Scott Boras is famously not known for getting his guys extensions. He's rather more famous for taking them to free agency. So the possibility that you might be able to trade for 2 years of Juan Soto, in particular, perhaps this year and next year and the year after that, if you could do that, if that's a possibility, I think the Blue Jays really have to take a look at that. So that's something I want to look at with a video in the future, is what would it take to get 2.5 years of Juan Soto? What would you give? How many kidneys would you sell to get 2.5 years of Juan Soto? I think collectively, guys, I think we can get a lot of kidneys out there. I think we can do this. And I don't know what the prospect to kidney ratio is, but it's got to be pretty decent, right? Okay, no, for real. That is now officially it for me. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for watching. I will see you in the next couple days to talk about baseball that hasn't been played yet. Always a good idea, right?